Class is now in session. Hello everybody, it is me, Sci-Fi, and I am back at it with another video today. Now this one is another guide video like before, but it's going to be a supplement to another video that I made about a month ago on the Limbo Problem. So before you watch this video, I would highly recommend that you watch that video first. So, come back later or don't, it doesn't really matter. I just hope you enjoy it just the same. Now, with that out of the way, let's get on to the topic of this video, and that is the Rift. Now, for those who don't know, the Rift is a concept in Warframe about an alternate dimension that we can physically see, but cannot interact with, because of Limbo. Limbo is the only character in Warframe that can utilize the Rift in any capacity, at least within his innate kit. His entire concept centers around it, and it unfortunately means that no other character since has utilized the concept of the Rift. And that is where our problems start to come in. You see, the Rift in and of itself, it can be treated more of like a status effect that you can place on enemies and yourself, as well as allies, and any other NPCs or objects in an area. But because of this, it can only be accessed through Limbo's powers, and most importantly, can only be accessed through the use of a normal Limbo or Limbo Prime. And since no other frame has utilized the Rift in any capacity later on, it means that utilizing the Rift status is extremely limited, and knowing how to use it makes it even more limited, because those who typically try to use Limbo either get upset about the Rift because they don't understand it, because they're utilizing knowledge that they have gained from other frames and trying to apply it to Limbo. Or they try to utilize it in some capacity, but they don't know how it works and end up messing up things for other players in a squad. But when you do know how to master the Rift, you'll find that it is an extremely powerful status effect that I would even go as far as say it has more benefits than drawbacks. But in order to explain those, we'll need to get into it. So, buckle up. This is going to be a very, very long video. So as mentioned before, Rift behaves more like a status effect that can be applied to enemies, and the way it works is pretty simple. While under the status effect, an enemy or ally can only be damaged or interacted with by other enemies or allies if they are also under the same status. In addition, allies will get 2 energy per second over time, and whenever a ally or a limbo kills an enemy while in the rift, the limbo will get 10 free energy from that kill. Which is why you see a lot of players get annoyed whenever a limbo shows up in their squad, because there are times where they'll unload so much ammo into an enemy only to realize, wait, I can't hit him. And there are ways of noticing it. For example, there's a shimmer on enemy feet when they're rifted, which isn't the best way of distinguishing it, and is one of the few areas where I feel it can be improved. Also, whenever an ally is in the rift, they will get a yellowish tint on their screen, and all noise from enemies outside the rift will be muffled. Now, Limbo has 4 sources of applying Rift within his kit, one of which is applied through a synergy with his other powers. There's Vanish, Rift Surge when using the 1-3 combo, where you hold Banish to spread Rift through the Rift Surge. Cataclysm, as well as in Limbo's passive, where whenever he dodges into the rift and applies Rift to himself, he leaves behind a portal that allies and enemies can walk into to get rifted as well. Now this one is a little bit different because the rift that is applied via the portal isn't moddable and has 10 seconds at base. Now, when it comes to enemies, there The rules still apply for the most part to them, in that you have to be also under the rift in order to attack them. But there are a few exceptions in this case. For one, Eximus units' abilities can hit through the rift, not their bullets, only abilities. But when their overguard is shot down while in the rift or outside the rift, they too will get frozen by stasis. And there is also some funky synergies with certain weapons. For example, the Pack Seeker Arcane on kit guns can go through the rift. In addition, the Zymos can also go through the rift as well. And lastly, the recently released Dual Ecor Incarnate with its Incarnate Clouds can also hit through the rift. It's not as strong as the Pack Seeker Arcane or Zymos, but it's still an option for those who want to try it. And when it comes to allies, this is where things do get a little silly. You see, when it comes to allies that rely on abilities to kill enemies, it's basically a free immunity period for them if you bring along a Limbo or Banish Subsume to apply it to your allies. Like my close friend will show here, where with Gauss, I am simply pulling enemies into the rift using Cataclysm, and he's just clapping away, just blowing everything up.
Additional life support has arrived.
Good God, this was fun. And also here, where my buddy decided to bring along Zaku for the tests, and he's just basically just walking around in the rift, not having any troubles. It's really impressive how this status works, and when it comes to Acolytes, it gets even funnier.
Stop! You violated the law! Stop right there, criminal scum! Why won't you die?
My God, he didn't even stand a chance. However, there are some abilities that unfortunately do not follow this rule. For example, any abilities that rely on weapons to apply the damage, such as any sort of weapon damage buff, Wrathful Advance, and although I forgot to record it, Mind Control as well, because you're basically controlling an enemy who has a physical weapon. Those will not pass through the Rift, unfortunately. However, the most egregious example is with Dara's Splinter Storm. You see, whenever Splinter Storm spawns, it's treated more so as a physical object, where you have to make sure that before you banish the Gara, they are on the outside of the rift when they cast the Splinter Storm. Because if they spawn it inside the rift, it won't damage enemies through the rift. You can see how to do it here with this demonstration from a good friend of mine. Another example, which I did forget to record, but is in the wiki, is how Ivara's bow cannot hit through the rift, which is pretty annoying, but it's safe to say that most exalted weapons, such as Valkyr's Claws, Sevagoth's Shadow Claws, basically any exalted weapon will also hit through the rift as well, so do not worry. And lastly, there are some other funky examples with ability interactions with the Rift, such as with Vauban's Vortex, which I have shown in a previous meme video that I made a few weeks ago. And if you want to give it a watch, I'd say it's pretty entertaining, but it is important to note because Vauban and Limbo are also a match made in heaven. Now, there are a few other niche utilities that the Rift status can provide, such as banishing defense and rescue targets, and you can also use it to bypass various lasers within different spy vaults and or throughout tile sets in certain missions, which aren't the biggest uses of the Rift, but they are cool and good ones to utilize if you want to get perfect scores in those missions. And overall, that is it when it comes to the Rift and its different applications. There might be more that I haven't discovered yet, and there are a few that I do know of in the back of my head that I don't really want to talk about because I don't have the best way of explaining them. But if you ever want to talk more about them, just leave them in the comments down below and I will see if I can get back to you on them. Anyway, that's been me, Sci-Fi. This has been a pretty interesting video for me, and I hope you guys all liked it. And I hope you all have a good day. See you next time.